Now, we all knew this was going to be an absolute cluster truck, and I said truck, for Ku Klux Kamala, Sith Lord Kamala Harris, and this interview was bound to happen. It was bound to be this way. This, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call fate, okay? Fate. This is what happens when you're selected and not elected, okay? Her lies are caught in 4K, okay? And with that being said, I do have slight audio issues, but no matter that, the show must go on. So, with that being said, shout out to the King Squad, the King Squad family, and the King Squad elites. You guys are the bomb.com, and don't let anybody, and I mean anybody, tell you any different, okay? And I hope each and every single one of you guys is having a great and awesome day. You guys, if you're not having a great and awesome day, well, you woke up this morning. And on top of that, we're going to get right into this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Share these videos. It really helps get this channel out there so we can continue to spread the truth so more people can help, well, we can help more people navigate and cut through the jungle of the mainstream media's lies, okay? And with that being said, I hope everybody's making their money legally and drinking their water. And no, this is not financial advice. Let's get right into the video. I will give my commentary periodically throughout the video, more so on the back end. Stay tuned for that. Let's go.
Madam Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but
right
do you,
now,
just a number, do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point, okay? The point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have
it's a
an
rough
immigration
estimate of
system
6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, shoot.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the Attorney General, former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you,
but actually is focused on fixing it.
6 Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year.
She's lying through her teeth. I just had to say it.
A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the 6 Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together.
Madam Vice President.
To ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungari's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss.
She's shuffling.
Sincerely.
She's shuffling.
But let's talk about
She's shuffling.
What is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in
her?
all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
Dang, they just caught her lacking. They just caught her lacking. She did not see that coming. Okay, she did not see that coming. That is a straight backhand to the Biden administration and the Kamala Harris administration, and I'm here for it. Okay, comment down below what you guys think. We're gonna keep going. This is crazy. They are cooking her.
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure you probably, I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that that's going to get fixed, Brett.
Well,
that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
There were
that's how the system
90-plus
works.
executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as Vice President. I will not do that as President.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent a significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm, and cross our border illegally, and I will do that work as Vice President. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing, stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy, and no gender transition surgeries happened during his presidency.
Well, you got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassessment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think it's real. He spent $20 million on those ads, trying to create a sense of fear in the voters, because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue.
I know she did not just say that. I know she did not just say that. Oh my gosh. Thumbs down all the way. Let's get back into the video.
That, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, it's really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though.
They say
On
it was
plans for
different,
the
but let's-
American
we'll move
people,
on.
I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker,
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people say-
inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year.
I'm going to tell you what she just said. She thinks we're idiots. That's exactly what she just said. Okay, she thinks we are stupid. She thinks we're idiots. Okay, that's just what it is. That is wild because she plans on increasing inflation. Okay, so the whole thing is nuts.
Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So, you're not Joe Biden, you're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency.
Cap.
And like every new president that comes in to
That's cap.
office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector, and others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
We've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years, so what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we have been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is
tell
about
pollsters,
turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
more than
people
70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And
he is literally cooking her into some hibachi. Oh my gosh.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people
you're the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances and it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for president of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's not supposed to be. It is not supposed to be a cakewalk for anyone.
So are they misguided, the 50%? Are they stupid? What is it?
I would never say that about the American people.
That's super cap. That is super cap. She literally said young voters are idiots. Like something around those lines about young voters being dumb. And I'm like, whoa. Yeah, no, that is not the case. Yeah, no.
People, and in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest man. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
You didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump... You call Donald Trump... he's misguided. You say now he's unstable.
He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched from the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to
of a turtle.
Do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Brett, Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
After George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, two more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands, okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the #1 threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, and then several hours on each occasion, that Iran posed a threat to Israel. I was there, most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself, and to give American support to be able to allow Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
but those
is,
proxies were getting
and
funded
my
by
commitment
Iran.
to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's
that
administration
go towards
that
the Iran regime.
That we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers,
Hamas,
has diminished the significance.
We're talking over each other. I apologize.
Well, I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision
and there are critics
that they feel.
who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're wrapping me very hard here. I hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say. I have much more to say.
There are a lot of things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and that's why we invited you here.
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do.
And that's why we invited you here, to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military and ensure we have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
and
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey,
man, she was weak, man. I'm gonna just get right to it. First things first. When I listened to her, I just I just don't get that strong, fearless leader vibe. I just don't, okay? I just can't see her sitting at the table of world leaders and making America sound like, okay, we're about business. I just can't see that, okay? I think that we would be immensely crushed. I think that we'd be entirely just obliterated if she is in charge. I think that we would not be respected, and we'd be taken advantage of, number one. Number two, I want to see what these comments say. Vote for country over party. Somebody said she did give one good answer to the question of why have the Border Patrol endorse President Trump. Because they are frustrated and they want support. Nailed that one. Yeah. I really was like, wow. Anything, to fix the border. I'm like, she's the reason the border is messed up as it is. Okay. And then you have the Border Patrol actually endorsing Trump. I'm like, that says a whole lot. They're fed up with this stuff. And, somebody said, you and I both know what I'm talking about. This is what happens when you only do interviews with friendly reporters. Somebody said, I am so sick of let me be clear, yet nothing is clear. Just a bunch of vague answers. I completely agree with that. And yeah, it really is a hate campaign. Okay. It's really a hate Trump campaign. That's really what it is. And that's what I get from it. Her whole campaign, and it's just horrendous. Let's see what some more of these comments are saying. Let's see. Somebody said, did she really say you got to take responsibility for what happened during your administration? Are you kidding me? Yeah, she said that. Yeah, she said that. Somebody said, it's so refreshing to finally see her be held accountable. I completely agree. Brett Baer, I believe I'm saying his last name right. If I'm not, please let me know in the comments. But yeah, somebody said, great job, Brett Baer. Hats off to you. This is the type of interview we want journalists to have. Kudos to Fox News. Yeah, somebody said, so rich of her to say you got to take responsibility for what happened in your administration. I really love seeing this. I really love seeing this, and as we all did, okay, it is just wild the fact that she's made it this far, to me, quite frankly, as vague as she is, and then on top of that, these policies that she's saying that she has put in place, that she wants to put in place, that is, I'm like, where was this during your entire run with Biden? Okay, if that was the case, why has life been so much harder under you guys' rule? Okay, you guys being in charge. And and then you have the clips of her saying she's no different than Biden. Well, it sucked under Biden, so that tells me it's going to suck under you too. And then I see what they're trying to do. They got Obama scolding black guys and black men, and then telling them they're going to give them weed and a couple of dollars of unforgivable loans and stuff like that. Just pandering for the black vote again. Trying to get people to go to a Democratic fish fry. And it's just wild. It's just wild. And then saying we're going to help small businesses. She doesn't know anything about small businesses or business at all. Okay. I when I see the Democrats, I really see anti-business. All right. Everything is government control. And then they sit here and try to say Trump wants government control over women's bodies and stuff like that. But in reality, everything the Democrats stand for is more government control. Okay. So it's just backwards. It's just, I just see it's just a lot of hypocritical stuff. And yeah, somebody said exactly what I was thinking right here. $25,000 in free money for houses will actually increase the prices of houses by a minimum $25,000. Yeah, and then they responded, and there's no such thing as free money. The taxpayers always pay the bill. That is complete facts, okay? So for her to say, oh, yeah, we're going to just give people more money for businesses and to get into houses, well, who's paying that money? Who's paying that money? I think that sounds like inflation is going to get a lot more rougher for everybody. So if you think life is hard now, just wait. It's going to get a whole lot harder. That's what I heard. Let me know if I'm wrong, though. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. All right. Let's see what else people are saying. Oh man, it says somebody said it seems that every single question she deflects on Trump, absolutely ridiculous. How do you feel about that? Okay, I'm cracking up. Someone said, "Let me be very clear, Brett. I was born in a small town. I came from a middle-class family with a green lawn." Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. So we're going to bring this tab over here. And yes. So shout out to George B. Hizzy tweets. He said, "Oh my shock. Brett Baier is crushing Kamala Harris right now. More than 70% of Americans say the country's on the wrong track. You've been in office for 3.5 years, Kamala states, and Donald Trump has been running for office. But you've been the person holding the office." Frying her. Deep frying her. And this can't be the same Baier that called Arizona for Joe Biden within the seconds of the polls closing. So this is huge. So we're going to just play this clip.
What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that
more than
people are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade,
But you're
people
the
have
lever of
become.
power.
But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, that
More than
people are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell.
People are exhausted. Exhausted from your policies. Okay, exhausted by the Biden administration. All right, let's see. The Hodge twins. Shout out to the Hodge twins. So they said it's over for Kamala Harris. Listen to her. Let's check it out.
Frankly, exhausted of Brett.
More than
People are
70% of people
exhausted.
tell the country is on the.
Same clip. Okay. And shout out to Colin Rugg. He says, just in, Brett Baier says there were 4 Kamala Harris staffers waving their hands back and forth to stop the interview. I'm talking like 4 people waving their hands like it's got to stop. I had to dismount there at the end. Wow.
On the other side, you've been on. Dana, you've been on the other side. You've been on the rapper as a press secretary interviewing a president. And, you know, I'm talking like 4 people waving their hands like it's got to stop. So, Martha, final, I had to dismount there at the end. There's so many things, and she maybe should do more of these. Madam Vice President,
And
they're giving me a hard rap
Well,
here.
I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dana, you've been on the other side.
Whew. Man. Wow. Shout out to Charlie Kirk. Kamala went completely unhinged, lying about Donald Trump locking up political opponents. Newsflash, Kamala, it was the Biden-Harris DOJ that tried to throw President Trump in federal prison for 700 years.
Without saying he'd talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy, the President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it.
Yeah, she's full of crap. So I was just blown away. I said, wow. Wow. I shout out to Libs of TikTok. Kamala claims her admin capped the cost of insulin at $35 and that Trump will eliminate that policy. It was actually Trump who implemented that policy and the Biden-Harris regime that froze it.
We capped the cost of prescription medication at $2,000 a year for seniors and capped the cost of insulin at $35 for our seniors. That's our grandparents, our parents. Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. His plan would eliminate that cap. He capped.
I think it's crazy that she actually is talking. This is a whole other interview too. Okay, that was a whole other interview, but and we have to check that one out as well. But yeah, acting like she cares about people's health, man, please. All right. Yeah, this was an absolute just dumpster fire. So Marjorie Taylor Greene. I apologize if I just butchered her name, but Marjorie Taylor Greene. You guys let me know how to pronounce it in the comments. Okay, I'm doing my best here. Taylor Greene press release, and is it parody count? They're saying breaking. CNN just exposed Kamala Harris for how bad her interview was by saying she has no answer for why Biden and Harris threw out Trump's executive orders, changed everything, and then a flood of people came in. CNN has officially and completely turned on her.
Amen. An ounce of humility here. No answer for why Biden and Harris threw out Donald Trump's executive orders and changed everything, and then a flood of people came in. An ounce of humility here would go a long way, and she doesn't have it in her to do it, and she has no real answer other than to blame Congress. And Brett was right. Democrats controlled everything when they took over, and so is she saying it's the Democrats' fault that the immigration system is broken? I don't understand this. I don't understand why she can't just say, hindsight here, we shouldn't have done it. I think the American people would actually accept it, but she won't do it. No answer for why Biden and Harris.
Wow. Yeah, it was just wild to see her sit here and just fumble around like that. The stuff that she said was absolutely absurd, and I really think that her campaign has been an absolute dumpster fire. I think she's done after this, really. Okay, I'm not gonna get my hopes up too high. We still got to actually put the work in and continue to put the work in and actually go out and vote, of course. But it's just been fumble after fumble after fumble. Okay, and we're seeing it. Okay, you have the Obama fumble, and then you have all of her interviews that she's been doing, and then she decides to be the big bad wolf and sit here and say, okay, I'm real bold. I'm gonna get on Fox and tell it like it is. And then she gets on Fox and it's a cluster truck, and that's just that. So yeah. What do you guys think? I'm really curious to see what you guys have to say about this, as always. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought about this interview. All right, and that is all for this video, you guys. And I will see you guys in the next one. Shout out to the King Squad family, the King Squad elites, and the King Squad in general. Okay, you guys are the bomb.com, and I hope each and every single one of you guys are having a great and awesome day. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.